Despite being one of the most visited countries in the world, there is a lot people get wrong about traveling in Mexico. After this video, you'll have my best tips for how to travel safely in Mexico. For the best advice about traveling and living in Mexico, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I upload a new episode every Thursday. Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm an American expat who's been living in and traveling around Mexico since 2017. Just like every destination, there are do's and don'ts for traveling in Mexico. From important safety tips and advice for handling money to how not to get sick while enjoying street food, the knowledge I'm going to share with you in this video will help you travel around Mexico with confidence and ensure that you're able to enjoy your trip to the fullest. If you're thinking about traveling to Mexico during the pandemic, be sure to check out this video next, where I share my best tips for how to stay safe and healthy while flying to Mexico. I understand that safety is a huge concern for people visiting Mexico, especially Americans who receive a lot of negative news about this country. That's why I'm addressing this topic first. Is Mexico safe? And I can only speak to my own experience in this country, and I have lived here for 3 years, traveled all over, both by myself and with my boyfriend, and I can honestly tell you that I have never felt unsafe. I've never even felt uncomfortable, not once. Now, the city that I live in Mexico is very safe. Querétaro is known throughout the country for being one of the safest cities. Generally speaking, tourist destinations are safe to visit. Tourism is a huge industry here in Mexico, and the government is working very, very hard to give travelers a positive experience and to keep people coming back to Mexico. Of course, even when you're in those tourist destinations, even when you're in quote unquote safe places in Mexico, you need to be aware of your surroundings. And that's advice that I give to travelers, whether they're coming to Mexico, going to Europe, Asia, anywhere in the world that is not your home. Whether you're a solo traveler, a female traveler, or you're in a group with people that you trust, you should always make an effort to be aware of your surroundings when you are in a place that you are not familiar with. If you've never been to Mexico before, then you might not be familiar with the FMM, which is a migratory form that you fill out on the airplane and get stamped when you go through immigration. Sometimes this form can throw travelers for a loop because they are used to just getting their passport stamped when they visit another country, but you will need to keep track of this form the entire time that you are in Mexico. And I like to keep it right in my passport so I know exactly where it is and it's safe. I also wanted to touch on keeping your passport safe in Mexico. I know some travelers like to keep it on their person at all time, but in my opinion, that is kind of risky. If you were to get your purse stolen, if you were to get pickpocketed, then you're kind of out of luck. So I always ask myself where the safest place for my passport is at any given time. So yes, sometimes that is your physical person, but other times it's going to be a hostel locker as long as it's locked, or a hotel safe, or I've even asked the associates at the hotel front desk to keep my passport safe for me when I am going out in the city. For those times that you don't have your passport on you, you want to have a color copy of the front page of your passport that you can use if you ever need some form of identification. In the event that you lost your passport, it's also really helpful to have a copy of it that you can take to the embassy, and it will make getting a new passport a heck of a lot easier. Now, prior to coming to Mexico, you don't need to worry about paying for an international cell phone plan because it is really easy to get a SIM card here in Mexico, and you can even do so at the airport. I always tell people when they fly into Mexico City, their first stop after they get through immigration and baggage claim should be to an OXXO to pick up a SIM card. And you will just ask the person working there for a Telcel chip, and they will get you all set up. It is super cheap, and then you have data before you even leave the airport. And this will be very important just in case you need to use Google Maps, contact your Airbnb host. Having data is a really important part of traveling Mexico safely. I don't use money exchanges. I don't know anyone who uses money exchanges, currency exchanges. I prefer to withdraw pesos from the ATM just like I would if I were in the United States. For this, I recommend having a debit card with a bank that reimburses you for ATM fees. If you're American, I recommend checking out Charles Schwab. You can open up a high yield checking account for free. There's no minimum balance, and they will reimburse you for any ATM fees at the end of every month. So that's even international ATMs. Along with getting your SIM card all set up, getting cash from the ATM is one of the first things that you're going to want to do upon arriving in Mexico. You should do it right there at the airport because cash is king in Mexico. And even though there are a lot of places that do accept credit cards, do accept debit cards, there are still a lot of places that don't. And even at those places that do accept credit cards, it's oftentimes just a lot easier, a lot simpler to pay in cash. For the most part here in Mexico, I use Uber. I have the app on my phone and order a ride just like I would if I was in the United States. When your Uber comes, make sure that you check the make and model of the car, the license plate, and the driver's name to what you have in the app. While I definitely prefer Uber, I do just hail taxis right off the street from time to time here in Querétaro. And when I do that, I always confirm with the driver how much the fare is going to cost to wherever I'm headed. So I'll simply give the driver my destination and ask him how much, cuánto cuesta. And he will give me his approximation of the fare. Fare meters aren't universal in Mexico, so you won't be able to see how much your ride is costing while you're on it. Instead of meters, taxi cabs in Mexico often have a chart, usually on the window, and this shows you how much different rides cost to different points, different zones in the city. But because this chart is on the window, sometimes it is bleached by the sun and hard to read. So I like to always confirm in advance with the driver just to avoid any uncomfortable, any weird situations or getting overcharged at the end of the journey. If you're planning a trip to Mexico soon, I would love to know where you're going. Let me know in the comments below. Lots of travelers, lots of tourists equate being on vacation in a warmer climate with it being appropriate to wear flip-flops. And I really recommend that you do not do that because a lot of the streets, a lot of the sidewalks in Mexico are uneven, there are holes, there are loose bricks, and breaking your ankle would really ruin your trip. So it's better to wear closed-toed shoes, closed-back shoes, something that is solid and you feel comfortable walking in. So you want to talk about, is Mexico safe? Well, Mexico can be very dangerous for your skin. Seriously, the sun here is so strong, so intense. And even if you're one of those people who never burns, wear sunscreen. Obviously, I recommend wearing it when you're at the beach, but you also want to make sure that you're wearing it when you're out sightseeing, especially when you're visiting archaeological sites. Places like the Tulum ruins, Chichen Itza, those places do not have a lot of shade, so you are going to want to make sure you have that extra layer of protection. Even if you are planning your trip to Mexico post-pandemic, or watching this video once there is already a vaccine for COVID-19, you should still bring one of those travel-sized bottles of hand sanitizer with you to Mexico, or buy one when you're here and have it with you at all times. You should be using that before you eat anything, before you touch any kind of food with your hands. Lots of people will say, don't eat the street food in Mexico because it will make you sick. But oftentimes it's the germs that people bring with them to the food stand that makes them sick. I mean, just think about it. You're touching handrails, you're touching tickets, you're giving people your credit card, money, and then touching your taco. What did you think was going to happen? Seriously, it would be a shame if you came to Mexico and only ate in restaurants. Some of the best food, some of the tastiest food can be found in markets and from street vendors. First, you want to make sure that the place is busy. If it's hard to snag a stool, if you see lots of locals eating there, chances are it is a good place. 2, cold food should be very, very cold, and hot food should be very, very hot. Ice is a good sign, and if you're in doubt as far as what to order what is fresh, what is right there being made in front of you. The hotter, the better. 3, hand sanitizer. Now you already have your little travel size bottle of hand sanitizer, so you're good to go, but seeing a mega bottle of hand sanitizer at a food stand is a very good indicator, because if it's there, chances are the people who are working there are also using it. Everything that you have heard about the tap water in Mexico is true. Drinking it will make you sick. Most Mexicans, the majority of Mexicans, don't drink the tap water here. If you are traveling on a budget, don't feel like you have to buy bottled water all the time. If you are at a restaurant, instead of paying for bottled water, you can ask for a glass of water, un vaso de agua del garrafón. And this phrase will let your waiter know that you want a glass of water from the giant jug of purified water that they have in the back. So again, this should be free of charge. If you don't want to pay for bottled water, you can ask for un vaso de agua del garrafón. Those were 10 of my best tips for how to travel safely in Mexico, but there is a lot more that I could say on the subject. So if you would like to see even more tips about traveling in Mexico, including how to shop at the market and advice for tipping, head to the link in the description and check out this blog post with 35 do's and don'ts for traveling in Mexico. If you have any questions about how to travel safely in Mexico, go ahead and leave those in the comments below and I will definitely answer them there. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and feel free to share it with someone who you would love to travel around Mexico with. I'm Alex from backpackingbrunette.com. Thanks for watching.